This is the main tab. You have at the top left your navigation between the tabs, main, arpeggiator, effects, and mod. So back to the main tab. In the center you have your load or save preset box. You just click it to open this window, which lets you choose any of your presets, and you can navigate between them with these buttons here. Next to that is your global pitch and pan. So this is controlling the pitch and pan of the entire instrument. You can slide them like this, and then option click puts that back in center. The same is true of the pan. Here's your mute button, which silences all output, and then these are your meters, which are displaying left and right signal output. This gear icon opens your settings box, and we'll get into all of this later. So here's the main tab of Grand Piano Suite. On the left, you have a list of all the voices or instruments that are available to you. There's 11 here, and these are all grand piano textures and sounds that we've sampled. So all of these faders at the bottom control per voice volume, and I can mix and blend any of these sounds together pretty quickly using these knobs. A couple special things about the knobs: if you double click it, it puts it at -6. If you right click it, I can assign MIDI CC to it if I know my MIDI CC number, or I can just click Learn MIDI CC and turn one of my knobs, and then I have physical control over that parameter. That is true of any of the faders and knobs in Nightfox Audio products. So when you're producing on the fly and you're using something like this, you can map a bunch of them and have physical control over those virtual parameters. So obviously I only have one fader up right now, so it's just Concert Grand Piano. I'm going to go to the arpeggiator page, turn that on, that arpeggiator, and then I'm going to let that play it for me while I start to blend in some of these other tones. That way I can really quickly find a brand new tone with a combination of a bunch of those instruments. Another helpful thing, if I want to reset the values of all of those together, I can click Shift and drag down a fader, and it controls them all as a unit. So I can turn them all down and then double click one, and then I'm just hearing that one voice. Notice that if a voice is turned all the way down or blacked out like this, that voice is no longer contributing to the overall voice count, and that can free up a lot of really valuable CPU. You can hover over the name of a voice and click to open the voice attributes box. And this is awesome. Each of the instruments in Grand Piano Suite has its own voice attributes box. So in that box you have some voice attributes, some EQ, and a compressor. Under voice you have pan, and again this is unique to this specific voice. So you can pan every one of these separately and get a really wide stereo sound. You can also turn up width, but note that this will only work with instruments that have been sampled in stereo. You can change this on the mono ones and you won't hear any difference. And then this is input delay, which holds back the signal from this particular voice for any number of milliseconds. And this is really cool because you can set that to a different amount for each of your voices, and you almost get like a stomp effect. They're not all playing at the same time. Under EQ you have a 4-band EQ. Each band has frequency, shape, and gain, and a visualizer there to see exactly how you're shaping the tone. Under compressor you have threshold, attack, release, ratio, and makeup gain. This is really important. The makeup gain can dramatically increase the volume of this voice, so you want to make sure that your threshold is either all the way up or your ratio is all the way at 1 before you turn this button on, because it could get loud once you start making these adjustments. So we've given you all these controls per voice because that gives you a lot of control over where they each sit in your mix, and especially as they come together as a whole when they go out on your master bus. Across the bottom you have attack, release, cutoff, drive, and reverb, and then of course your master volume. Clicking on the word attack or release will open up the envelope box with controls for attack, hold, decay, sustain, and release. Even though all our instruments are sample-based, we can still apply this envelope and treat them more like a synthesizer. So really quickly with these knobs, I can shape that sound to be more plucky or to have a sharper attack. Hover and click on the word cutoff opens the filter box. And you have a drop down here of a bunch of different types of filters. A lot of times I'm using low pass, so I turn up the resonance. You can see how that impacts the sound. It's a nice visualizer too, so you can see what the filter is doing. Hover and click on Drive opens the Wave Shaper box, and there are a bunch of different types of waves here. ATAN and Saturate are my two favorites. This right here is your drive amount, which I've given you access to right on the front of the plug-in there. You also have a high pass and a low pass. Hover and click on the word reverb to open the reverb box, and here you have controls for mix, damping, stereo width, and room size. Mix is connected to that reverb amount knob there on the front of the plug-in. Damping rolls off high end on the affected signal, and then stereo width just makes that reverb wider. Room size will make it last longer, feel more like a cavern or a cave. And here's your master knob.